So who's Chris? How did you happen to be in design and architecture, and your journey with Zaha and the whole thing?
How far back do you want to go?
As far as you can.
When I was about 3 years old, I became a refugee, and my family had to flee our home, like so many people and so many children today. And at that age, the loss of home is a pretty major event. But what I've also come to learn is that loss of something is also a window to something new.
Chris, first of all, it's great to have you here at the 17th Red Summit in the beautiful city of Lisbon. I hope you're enjoying the city and the event already.
Absolutely, it's a beautiful setting. It's a beautiful time of the year, and everything is so well organized, including the setting. Lisbon is one of my favorite cities.
Okay.
Because it's topography, it's history, it's people.
Right.
It's very close to where I come from.
Yeah.
And
Cyprus.
I do with Cyprus and Greece, and we have a very similar geographical latitude. So we share quite a few things, and it's very nice to be here.
Well, lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
Chris, so for the audience, Chris is director with Zaha Hadid. I'd like to begin to understand. So we've already had a bit of conversation, and it's interesting from the lens how you look at it. I'd like to understand your journey. So who's Chris? How did you happen to be in design and architecture, and your journey with Zaha and the whole thing?
How far back do you want to go?
As far as you can.
Well, okay, so in a nutshell, my story goes a little bit like this. When I was about 3 years old, I became a refugee, and my family had to flee our home, like so many people and so many children today. And at that age, the loss of home is a pretty major event. And although parents tried their best to sort of diminish the impact of that, it was always in our minds. But what I've also come to learn is that loss of something is also a window to something new. And I became, I think as a result of that, kind of very positive about the outlook of what the future can bring. Because the years following a war are always very much progressive, expansive. They bring calmness, peace, joy, prosperity. So I think that was part of my upbringing in the younger years. And my father was an engineer. He was a structural and civil engineer. So I saw our country being rebuilt, housing, hospitals, roads. So he took me around during his endless working hours to see what he was doing. And so I learned the profession through my dad's experiences.
Right.
And then I went to study in the United States. The Fulbright Foundation gave me a scholarship, and they said to me, we have an engineering scholarship, and we'd like to give it to you to go study engineer. I said, I don't want to be an engineer, I want to be an architect.
Is it because of the influence you had from your dad? He was an engineer.
He was an engineer.
Right.
My dad was more kind of rational, mathematical in his thinking. Mine was a little bit more intuitive, a little bit more creative side. So he also suggested that maybe architecture is better for me.
Okay.
So when the moment came, I said, I'd like to be an architect. And they were shocked because, a 17-year-old kid can say, I don't want your scholarship I want to do something else. And in the end, they kind of looked at it positively. They gave me the privilege. I'm very grateful for that. And so I went to Brooklyn. I studied for 5 years. I worked in New York for a couple of years. And then on the return back to Europe, I went to the AA to do my master's degree, and there I met the Grand Lady of Architecture.
This was which year?
That was 1996, 97.
So, like, you've been associated with Zaha for 30 plus years now.
Yes, yeah. And the original encounter was in the university. I was a student, I was a master's student, and she was a crit in one of our studios.
Okay.
And we spoke about a very interesting issue, how the computer was changing the role of the 2D plan, the drone.
This is 96.
Architectural drawing. So that was the kind of the moment that started this kind of cascade of conversations that ensued about how all these media are beginning to evolve the way we do architecture, the way we think about space, you know. And Zaha was one of those seminal figures who helped me to develop my thinking in particular directions in a very strong way.
And talking about thinking, what's your design philosophy?
My design philosophy is, if I can encapsulate it in a few words, is to build for people. When I draw, I don't only think about the material of the architecture, the walls of the room, but I also like to think about the space in which people move through. I like to see architecture as an organizer of human life in a way, and to create possibilities beyond control that are enabling human life. I love to see our buildings to be used in unpredictable ways. And I think that's one big part of it. The other big part of it is to do as much as we can, with the gifts that we've been given, architecture that is beautiful, precise, organized, well crafted, well executed, but to bring these two worlds together, the material and the emptiness of architecture together, and to do it for other people's sake.
And from the work that you have done, so for all 30 years you've been with Zaha.
Yes.
Like that's like most of your career.
All of my career.
Right.
Yeah.
From all the work that you have done, and it's interesting you say like your design philosophy is that you want your primary thinking is about people, about how they use. Which of the work that you've done that sort of has moved you the most? Are there any such things that you think of sometime when when you have no work and you feel really nice about a project you've done and it's really meaningful? Are there any such projects that are on top of your mind?
Yes, of course. I must say the journey of an architect is a painful journey, because architecture is not an easy profession. It feels easy on the
outside,
on the surface of it, and maybe it also feels glamorous, and maybe it feels a lot of things. But behind the scenes, architecture is very much sweat, blood, and tears, because the process of doing architecture is very much about expanding awareness, about learning to deal with very complex sets of problems, and I don't want to say the cliches of budgets and timings and construction limitations, but also the issues of resolving the problems that architecture is called to resolve. How to organize buildings within a city so they become a positive contributor to city life, how to deal with social sustainability issues, how to organize anything from traffic to form to even how to organize construction sites, for example, in the process of doing so. So within this realm, there are moments of joy and gratification, And these come, generally speaking, from two or three aspects. First of all, the sense of common accomplishment with your team, with people, the clients, and going through a kind of a very arduous process and coming to the end and saying, yes, we've done it. I think that's beautiful, and it stays with you for a long, long time. You don't lose that. Then the other thing is that there is a certain mystery in the way the constellations of people that come together to do projects is a kind of I think is a guided process, but not necessarily guided by people. And then when you realize that after 5 or 6 or 10 years you did a project and took it from beginning to end, to realize how many people, characters came in and out of this journey, and how everyone contributed more or less in this process to make something happen is really magical. You know, the serendipity of this is absolutely unbelievable. So I've learned to enjoy that part of the architecture process. And then if I'm asked to speak about projects, I would say the Phaeno Science Center was a very inspired project, happened in Germany from late 1999 until 2005. We're actually going to be celebrating its 20th anniversary since the completion this December in Germany. So going back will be a bit of a deja vu.
Are you visiting the 20th anniversary celebrations?
Well, you know, I try, after projects are finished, I prefer not to go back. I feel my mission is accomplished, and somebody else's mission is then to take them on, adopt them, embrace them, use them, and so on. The role of the architect is not that of a user, although you go back to the buildings and of course you use them, but not in the same way. And so the Phaeno Science Center was one. I haven't been there for many, many years, so I'm looking forward to that now. The Opus in Dubai was another seminal project for me because, well, that project was a lot about the development of Dubai from the year 2005 until 2015 or so. That process of huge development in that city that happened there. I keep telling everybody that the first time I went to see the site, it was just yellow desert everywhere. And then 3 months later, fencing, construction cranes, the rest of it came up. And surely now, you know, all that environment is fully transformed. And talk about the power of vision, the power of human endeavor, and how all that helps to shape the places in which we live in, and how that works. So that was a second point of joy. And a third one may be the Eleftheria Square, an urban regeneration project in Nicosia in Cyprus, which is still our divided capital. And that came with a kind of a bold vision to reunify the island, a little bit like an architectural activism, let's say, showing practical grassroots techniques of how municipalities could help to bypass political problems and bring people together again. And when that project opened, was a big. It was embraced by the public in a very big way, and for me as an architect, it was beautiful to witness that. You know, the power of architecture. So these were interesting.
No, you highlighted about the conflicts that you resolve. The internal conflicts. So you spoke more both the pain side of it as well as the pleasure side of it. It's very interesting that you are able to even describe it as you feel it inside. What in the conflict zone? What are these things that sort of gets you the most when we talk about conflict? So you got a project, you're working on something, and now you're dealing with a set of people, and then there are situations around it. Like you said, there are multiple things that you consider. What of it? I'm trying to understand what these are internal conflicts, or is it to do with something in the society, or what are these conflicts we are talking about?
The conflicts are, or the challenges, let's put it like this, the challenges are usually stemming from the inability to get things right. Yeah. So you may know what is the right place to be, but you may not be there. And I think that process causes a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, not just in me, but generally in the teams, in the clients, the stakeholders, etc. And I think what's missing at that point is the collective awareness of where we should be. And the thing with this is that some people get it a little bit earlier than others, but the process of going through this transformed awareness within a team setting, within a project setting, within the operational area of architecture, or even the design area of architecture, right? How you assemble things together. You may know what it should be, but the way it's happening is not yet there. So every time as an architect, especially as a kind of a director, you have to configure a team that is able to deliver certain results. And whilst the team is learning, things are not all rosy. On the contrary. So you have to go through a lot of failures, a lot of no's, a lot of collapses, a lot of these things to be able to get to the point where everybody reaches this common awareness. That's where we should be. This is how this is done. So in retrospect, we were talking about this earlier. In retrospect, you see these journeys a lot easier. But when you're facing the road, it's much harder to decipher because you can't always look backwards while you're walking forwards. And I think that has something to do with leadership. That has something to do with how communication between groups of people works, how the dialogue of architecture or project making is happening. And, I'm sure you see it also from your own teams, how making a project happen with a particular team is much easier in round 3, 4, 5, and 6 because the collective experience helps everybody to align a lot more.
Talking about facing a lot of no's and overcome all of these situations, what you think you've had more failures or equal amount of success, or vice versa in the whole process?
I feel I have only failures.
Okay.
Yeah, I think life has been a journey of continuous failures. And, thankfully I'm not dead yet, so hopefully I will get it right once before I have to go, and I think that is the journey. I think that's how you learn. Life in its, with a capital L, is a journey of experience. And I think learning that you don't have it and you have to learn how to attain it is maybe one of the biggest wisdoms one can attain.
So it's only journey one should experience and really not pay attention as much to success or failure?
Pay attention to failure, not chase success so much, I would say. I think learning from failure, learning from when things don't work, And Zaha said, experimentation should never stop. I think it's not so much the fetishization of the experiment that is the issue, but that the fact that through doing, you're learning. Through experiments, you learn what works, what doesn't work. And within that, I think you build a very deep knowledge of architecture as much as everything else.
And this sense of calmness you bring in that I can no, certainly. But the sense of the vibration you bring in while you talk, you think this is something that was that is through with all the processes that life put you into, or is it you think you were born with it?
I think I was born with the mission to become calm despite the adversity, but I can't tell you that I'm always calm. On the contrary, there is moments when I panic, when I feel challenged or nervous about things. So I'm still learning to look at things and to become observant of what's going on, and to be able to feel situations without always being inside them. So I think it's about learning to be within and without at the same time. That helps me to have a certain sense of calmness. And of course, also about relinquishing control a lot, which is something that's very painfully learning that you can very rarely have control over something. And so.
And are there any tools that you resort to, like you're reading books, or are there any activities that you are that you're doing every day to face all of these things and yet focus? And it's interesting you spoke about within and without, and how you without even getting in, you're able to observe. Now, all of these are coming because of work, or is it because you're also searching for something within you? There should be something deeper, isn't it?
There is something deeper that's been emerging, and I meditate a lot. I try to see myself as one in the grander scheme of things. So, a lot of times we think that we can control and manage and dictate everything, but hardly ever that is the case. That's the big delusion, isn't it? So I think I try to leave some things to higher up realms of spiritual existence, and if I'm able to offer my gifts to the world in the best possible way, then I think that's my job, not much more.
And from this moment onwards, what is the sort of legacy you want to leave for yourself? Like, is there a sort of an imagination that you see, this is a project I want to work, or with the community I'm involved with, or the set of people I'm involved? This is where I would like to, take it toward. Are there any such imagination?
With all humility, I will speak, and I will say that we have been thrown, our generation has been thrown in this world to try to figure out what is this bridge between this old world and the new world. And I think this journey, if anything, of becoming a single planet, of realizing all the intricacies of the human cultures within it, recognizing how systems, ecosystems, human societies, communities, the richness of human language, all the journey that we all as humanity have had until we get to this point, and finding the solutions how to work together is probably the one thing that we've got to figure out. And if I am able to be a contributor in that, together with so many others, I think that would be a good thing, because in the process, I will try to be a little bit more specific about it. In the process of reconfiguring urban life and being from one country but working in another, family structures change, our geographical presence changes, where we put our work effort is sometimes dislocated. And I think there is a process of learning to love the world as a whole. And I think that is not an easy task, because we as humans find it easier to love our own, or to hate our own, depending on where we are in life. But our immediate emotional relationship is with our own in the first place. So I think learning to have a bit more expansive view of ourselves in the world without losing what is our own is important. And in that sense, the way you become and are, a father or a son or a professional or, anything in this world, because it's under such strain at the moment from the old structures to these new ones. I think we are going through this process of trying to figure out how to do that better. And in my journey, I feel that is probably one of the bigger challenges, how to make home, which is a bit more dispersed than very much consolidated somewhere.
And you think of what's life's purpose? What are we doing here? I mean, from the way you talk, I think it's very natural for you to think of, what are we doing here, and where are we heading? And
I think about it a lot. I do have a kind of people say that I have a kind of a philosophical, reflective thinking. Not that I have the solutions, though. I mean, I can make observations, but I don't know if I have the solutions, and certainly I can't offer solutions to many people, but I can tell about my life experience, and that's all I have to share, my life experience. But I think I think we have to learn to be a little bit more kinder, to be a little bit more understanding of each other. It's not always easy. I think it's also important to learn how to not worry about tomorrow so much. Things will come, and not everything that's meant to come tomorrow is worse than today. As much as we can't have a guarantee that what's going to come tomorrow is going to be better than today, but we have to take it as it comes, and we have to have faith. We have to have some sort of inner resilience and strength. And, something that we've lost recently, I think, is to be able to ask for help and give help to people. I think that's how societies become resilient. And if you're able to have someone else's back, I think that makes a big difference.
And how much of influence Zaha has had in your whole process?
Well, Zaha was inevitably a very influential person in my life, in our work. She was also someone whom I considered a friend and a mentor. And it was interesting to see her life journey and as it developed from someone who struggled a lot in the earlier parts of her life and someone who became very, very revered and successful at the later part of her life. What were her life's challenges, and how she coped with a lot of it. But again, for me, it was funny sometimes. And in the beginning, when I started working there, she used to ask me, "Well, why are you smiling? There's so many problems. Why are you smiling?" And I realized 20 years later why that was happening to me. It was because I had this sense that she would make it in the end. I mean, that's also part of the reason why I joined the practice. I thought it's impossible a person like this will not make it in the end. But she didn't know it always. And me watching the struggle, I found it a little bit entertaining to say, look, she doesn't yet know who she is. So it was interesting. But yeah, definitely, Zaha was a great, is and was a great architect. I think she was full on and all in the way she did architecture, and she had a beautiful artistic demeanor about her. And I think her paintings and her drawings, the way she was perceiving these kinds of structures, whether you like them or not, she has a kind of a very defined persona that goes in the work, and I think
And
that's
and
remarkable.
you know, because you've seen her from such close quarters, are there things that you saw and you said, you know what, this I don't want to imbibe in me? I mean, there are a lot of things that you would, you know, your influence. Like I can imagine when you say,
Yeah.
like you could see that she will see through, and she will, you know, she doesn't know who she is, but you can see it. But I also believe when you see somebody from such close quarters, you also know, you know what, this part in you I don't want.
Yes, of course. I mean, no two people are the same,
Yeah.
and so we distinguish ourselves from someone else exactly in that way. I mean, that is not about better or worseness in one or another. It's just different characteristics.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, of course, there are things in which I'm totally different than her or Patrick or other colleagues. I mean, all of us are unique in that way.
And do you teach in universities and talk to students?
Yeah. I used to. I used
Okay.
to teach a lot
Right.
in the, especially after we finished some projects like Opus and Phaeno and so on. I did hold a. Well, first of all, I taught with Patrick a little bit in the AA at the DRL. We did some schemes about parametric urbanism together then. And that was an interesting way to go back to my alma mater. Then I was offered a position to have my own master studio in Dessau, where Gropius's Bauhaus is. And it was part of the German academic exchange program. I was a guest professor in a German university, and we built a very beautiful sort of studio there. It was called Studio X, and it was a group. Eventually, it became a group of about 50 people, students of 4 or 5 successive generations, and these were kids who couldn't afford a lot of money for the school fees, and our fees was dirty cheap in that school, so everybody could come if they wanted to. But we had a group of people like Matthias Del Campo and Daniel Dentra from another architect, myself, Sandra Manninger, different people who were tasked with sort of proposing, cutting-edge design processes at that time into what was a rather traditional school. And so it was a little bit of a flashback to the early 1920s, 1930 years when the modernists came to Dessau and they started doing all those experiments, the Bauhaus movement. And of course, that was also very short-lived. It only lasted about 10 years. Ours also did the same. So that place has this kind of sense that something sparks up for a short periods of time and then it sort of goes away. But in this time, it was good because we developed a lot of ways how to teach students. And one of the things that I did was I said, I will be, let's say, the studio master in the first year, but then in the second year I will take my best students and I will invite them to become tutors. And then in the third year we will become also the best, we'll bring the best students and make them into tutors. So we developed a system of passing the knowledge forward constantly. So the students, they were learning and then teaching, learning, teaching, and that model became a very interesting way because of a fundamental belief that the learning doesn't always come from one figure, the teacher. The teacher becomes the guide, but actually the knowledge is developed within the studio. And so that group went for several years after I left. So, after people picked it up and they kept following this model, which was good. But so that was one of the things that we developed. And there was a fundamental belief that teaching is about building character. I'm very much attuned with the ancient Greek philosophy in this sense that teaching is about building character and ethics, not about building skills and expertise. Because once you have the character and the ethics, then whatever comes, you kind of appropriate it in a very interesting way. And of course, skills and expertise are very important, but they cannot be disconnected from the idea of building character and building your ethos.
Yeah, I completely agree with it. Let's say we're in you have to describe how architecture and design will change in 2050, let's say, which is 25 years from now, with sustainability, technology integration, AI. Every day there's something or the other happening, within this industry. How would you describe what a 2050 design and architecture would be like?
I don't know what it will be like, but I'll tell you what I would like it to be like.
Yeah.
I would like it to be a world where people can be left free enough to be able to explore their own life.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel we're moving contrary to these
principles.
I do feel that we need to let certain things evolve naturally instead of trying to preempt everything. There is a phrase that I use in my, or a proverb that I use in my lecture sometimes that says, systems make very good servants, but make terrible masters. And I think how we develop our systems and how we use them, and the relationship of the human being to its products, its sort of outcomes, and whether it's AI or machines or systems of governance or whatever, I think needs to be restated. I think we are suffering from that confusion at the moment where we don't know whether we should be subservient to the system or whether we should be masters of the systems we use. And I mean masters with a lowercase m, like the way we manage them. But I think that's one of the issues that we need to look at very carefully. And the technological advances, the efficiency, all the macroeconomic problems that we are facing, I think can become a lot easier. Also, if we learn to demand less from the world. So I think at the moment we tend to demand, there is no equity, and I want to speak for the good 80% of the world, not the top 2%. And I think there needs to be more equity to housing, affordable housing, cities, public spaces, education, food, health, etc. I think the cities that we should be looking for should have that as their primary sort of objective. And we still may not be able to resolve all our eternal, human societal problems, but at least we can be a little bit more aware and more driven towards these kind of worlds.
No, I reckon with that, and it's such a moment where it's as if what you're saying is how I think and operate also. Like, therefore it gets to me too much, because you're talking food, you're talking shelter, we are doing the real estate focused only events, and you touched on affordable housing as well. So we have line of events called the Affordable Housing Investment Summit, which we were doing in Africa. So we bought the policymakers, people who create materials, people who fund, and all of these things. And why we are also doing all of this is because I fundamentally believe, and why I'm also very stuck to the real estate gatherings only, is because I believe we are in the business of shelter. So food, shelter, clothing, education, healthcare should become very basic.
Yes.
And only then I think human beings will have the time to think of, okay, why am I here? What am I doing? How can I get better, understand better? When majority of them, like you said, 80-90% of them are struggling to put food on the table, just take care of their shelter and clothing. So where do they have the time to think anything beyond? And it is for the very same reasons. Anytime somebody new joins in our team, I tell them, look, this is why we are still in real estate. It's because I believe we are in the business of shelter, and there's so much to do there and contribute, and there's so much to learn as well. And that's how we do Affordable Housing Investment Summit. And also, we run a foundation. It's, in fact, for the very first time I'm even talking about it in a setup like this. But it just happens that I get what you say, and therefore I am describing, I feel very much similar to what you're saying. We also run a foundation. It's a GBB Foundation, and we support at the moment about 40 students, underprivileged kids. We pick them from different places and understand their conditions, and we support them through their education. So we got school kids and college kids and all of these, and most of it is happening in India at the moment. But it's all coming from the same understanding of what you are describing, which is, make food, shelter, clothing, basic, make it free so people can live
Yes.
better and then think.
And think about it, why call it affordable housing? The affordable term is what I have a trouble with.
Yeah.
Why don't you call it necessary housing?
Yeah.
Why not call it like a birth-given right to have
Absolutely.
access to a little bit of land and a little bit of shelter? And if architecture is also the process of making things beautiful as well. I think about Vitruvius and his 10 books on architecture. He said shelter, firmness and pleasure, shelter, enclosure, protection and the pleasure of the space in which you live in, of course, because that elevates your spirit. But, I think these are basics. If we can't offer that much, then what is it that we do?
Exactly.
And in high architecture, in these sort of real estate conferences, etc., we also try to show how to smoothen the edges of a very much an industry that is driven by maybe profit, maybe real estate concerns, very harsh factors on everybody. Because, truth be told, if you speak to any one of those people in there, I genuinely feel that they all go into these jobs, into these conferences, because they want to do something good. But the way the system is set up, sometimes, talking about how our relationship to the system, and so, if in the highest spheres of architectural thinking we manage to enrich how these constructs are, and they become then symbols or role models of a better life, then the hope is that sometimes these things trickle down to everything else. So if we work and experiment on prototypes of a better life, then how can we proliferate that down to everywhere else? But sometimes that doesn't work very well. there's a clock up somewhere and doesn't trickle down as much. So working with grassroots means to rethink how a lot of these challenges work. I think is then necessary to be able to find immediate solutions to very pressing problems. But if you think about it, affordable housing is necessary anywhere from, and I don't want to stratify the world in any particular way, but from the poorest societies,
even to the wealthiest,
all the way to
Absolutely.
the top 2%,
absolutely,
people can't afford housing anymore. So it cannot be that that our home always belongs to someone else.
absolutely.
Yeah, so that needs to change.
Well, I completely resonate with you there, Chris, and thank you for even bringing it up, with all these things. Well, what do you want to say the younger generation of students and architects, somebody who's just entered, and most of them enter because they want to make a career out of it. They find meaning perhaps, much later.
Mm-hmm.
Some may be early, some may be later. And what would you want to tell them?
I would like to tell them to not give up.
Mm.
It's a lot of the challenges in life take many years to resolve. So to not give up, first of all, to not be afraid of hard work, but to work clever, not just hard. And I think to always maintain a kind of an elevated sense of empathy for
The
for
fellow
each other.
beings.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes.
One thing I've strongly sensed in conversing with you, it's interesting, the multiple topics that we touched, is that you're present at every moment I've had this conversation with you. Is that something you've evolved through your journey, or were you always present?
No, to make a confession, I'm not always present. I think this conversation is very beautiful and good. I think there is something in it that allows me to speak from the heart, and I think that's all because of you too. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to have this conversation. I never wrote a book. I wrote very few articles, maybe 2 or 3. I'm not a writing architect. I find it very difficult to sort of encapsulate life in a book. But I like to talk to people, and some conversations are amazing, like this one. So I'm a little bit, you can say, Socratic in my endeavors. Socrates never wrote anything in his life, but he explored a lot of subjects by conversation.
Yeah.
And I think it's in that middle space between 2 or more people when the knowledge emerges and the joy of life happens.
Well, Chris, you like I was saying when I was talking to you earlier, there are more people that look up to you than you probably hear, and I can understand why. The way you are, your ability to describe things, I think are amazing, and it's my absolute pleasure to have this conversation. It is interesting to see things from the lens that you have mentioned, and I'm also very and your humble way of dealing with people and even conversing, and the fact that there are some areas where we think alike, it makes me very, very happy.
Same here.
And thank you for the time, thank you for the conversation, and I hope we will continue some of these topics in the future time. But I thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you too. It's been a
Yeah.
privilege to speak to you today.
Yeah.
And thank you for making the time to have this conversation.
No, thank you for being here, and it has been our absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much. Until next time.
Yeah.